It's great to be with you all in this virtual lead-in to Wilderness Wildlife Week. I hope to see you all in person in just a few weeks. It's certainly a winter wonderland in the Smokies right now. We just had 9 inches of snow that we had this week, so it was our first real taste of winter, and there's some snow on the ground today. So I hope you can experience a little bit of that if you're fortunate enough to be with us later in the month. I'm Dana Soehn. I'm the park spokesperson for Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and I've been with the park for about 30 years. So like many of you, I'm an avid supporter for the park. I'm a hiker on the weekends. I love enjoying the park and love camping in the park and spending as much time as I possibly can to just better connect and understand the incredible story and the treasures that this park protects. And so that's one of the things that I want to spend my time talking to you about today, is about the amazing treasures that this park protects. I truly believe that Great Smoky Mountains National Park protects some of the best treasures in the entire National Park Service. And I want to talk about what we do to help protect those and preserve them, and about what some of those resources are. And then touch on what's in store for 2022 and some of the things we're working on to improve the visitor experience for yourselves and the other folks that come here to enjoy the park. So let's just jump in and talk about this amazing place. And so just a reminder, many of you already know this, but I love celebrating the biodiversity of the park. It's such an amazing space. Great Smoky Mountains is in one of the oldest mountain chains, the Appalachian Mountains, and that helps us provide incredible habitats that have been here for thousands of years to support more than 20,000 different species in the park. And so we often will tell visitors that just from driving from our low elevations in Gatlinburg and Cherokee up to our highest elevations in Newfound Gap, that's about a 30-minute to an hour drive, you can experience the same habitats that normally it would take you to drive from Georgia to Maine to experience all of those different forest types and the different climates. So this park supports an incredible diversity of life, and we're still learning more about it. We've had an effort for the last 20+ years now to discover and identify all life that exists in Great Smoky Mountains National Park so that we can better take care and protect it. To date, we've now discovered 1,000 new species to science through this effort, and more every day, as scientists from around the world are contributing to this effort. We're discovering new species records that again help us better understand and care for what we've been charged to take care of. Some of those iconic species for the Smokies, like the American black bear, we're always trying to reach out and ask everyone to help us care for some of these megafauna, like our elk, and help people understand how, as a part of their Smokies visit, they can help us protect them by respecting space for bears and elk and stashing their trash, keeping those smellables and the food waste out of wildlife's reach. So we celebrate the megafauna like the bears and the elk. We also celebrate the smaller things in life. The Smokies is known as the salamander capital of the world, and we have over 30 different species of salamanders. We have rich biodiversity in our plant life with over 2,000 different kinds of flowering plants that people come here to experience during spring wildflower season. We have great summer flowering season and also in the fall color season, which leads us to experience some of those fall colors with the more than 130 different species of trees that you see in the background of this really special historic landscape. And that's another thing that makes the Smokies incredibly special, is our cultural connections to the story of this place. People have carved a living in these mountains for thousands of years. And you can experience that in an immersive way by walking through some of those cultural landscapes, going into some of the 100+ historic structures that we preserve, Or maybe it's just taking a walk on one of the trails and being able to see remnants from the home sites that were there, the chimneys and the stone walls, and some of the infrastructure that is still remains from that early settlement period. And then we also connect to the people of the Cherokee Nation, and we're able to tell people the stories and help them understand a little bit deeper connection to what it was like for people to live on the land and make, again, this their Smoky Mountain home for so long. So through our programs, we help keep those stories alive, and we're often known as the story keepers. So again, that rich cultural connection that just makes people feel at home in the Smokies, whether they've been here all their lives or this may be their first visit. There's a sense of coming home when you're in the Smokies. And there's so many opportunities to explore here. We have over 800 miles of trails. We have more than 380 miles of scenic roadways that were specifically designed with overlooks so that people could have a really rich and rewarding experience just by traveling the roadways and seeing that ridge after ridge scenic mountain view. Lots of great camping experiences to be had in the front country and 100 different backcountry campsites for people to explore backpacking. And then we also have lots of opportunities for fishing or just relaxing and strolling along the river. So I like to say there's something in the Smokies for everyone in your group when you come to visit. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our visitors. Last year, we had over 13 million people come to Great Smoky Mountains National Park. That's an incredible increase, and I just want to now kind of transition and talk a little bit about how inspiring that is that we have so many people that want to connect to the Smokies. It's also a little daunting for how we're able to provide services and meet the needs of a growing population that wants to spend some of their time here. So I point out this graph just to show you that rise of visitation that we've experienced. And you'll see a couple of yellow dots here. The first one in the 1930s, I highlight because that's when a lot of the infrastructure was put in place in the park during the CCC era and the establishment of the park. You can see remnants of the structures that we still use today. So places like Chimney's Picnic Area, those restroom facilities were built in the CCC area. Most of our roadways, most of our trail systems, and many of our bridges, the park headquarters building, the Akana Lefty administration building that we used for the visitor center for many, many years were all constructed during the CCC era. And these structures have stood the test of time, and incredible craftsmanship and workmanship have gone into them. But again, if you look at that graph in visitation, that was at a time period when they were projecting that maybe the Smokies might see 1 to 2 million people. And then the next big infrastructure influx that we had to be able to update facilities was in the 1960s, when visitation was more like 5 million. And that we refer to as Mission 66. So we had our Sugarlands Visitor Center was built, and many of our campgrounds were built in this time period. And again, that influx in infrastructure improvements was made because the Park Service recognized that we needed to provide more services to a growing population of people that wanted to explore their national parks. And now let's fast forward to where we are today in 2022, and you'll see that going from that 5 million to now 13 million has been unprecedented growth, especially in the last decade, where we've had a 48% increase in our visitation over this time period. And so what we've been experiencing and being able to provide infrastructure and services and support have been some pretty incredible challenges. And I just want to touch base on that as we look forward to some of the things that we're putting in place to help us take care of this park into the future and provide for a more sustainable visit. We want people to have this very rewarding experience, maybe traveling a road less traveled, to be able to have that very special moment in the park. This is a shot along the Foothills Parkway. We want people to experience perhaps even a moment of solitude on some of our trails as they have that chance to step back in time and kind of step away from the sights and sounds of their daily life. Maybe a wonderful camping experience at one of our 10 front country campgrounds. Again, maybe a trail experience where they have a Laurel Falls type moment, like in this picture, an Instagram worthy moment. But what we've been experiencing, especially over this last decade, is congestion at some of these most iconic places that started to change that visitor experience. Now people at places like Laurel Falls are experiencing congestion at the destination itself, like in that last slide, but also along the trail and just getting to the destination and trying to wait in line to be able to take that photograph. And sometimes it's congestion and crowding just to find a parking space. This is Alum Cave parking lot. And you'll often find that people park out of bounds for up to a mile along the roadways at some of these iconic trail locations. And that's not a safe experience for anyone to start their hike, to have to navigate this winding mountain road where we have two-way traffic and you're trying to walk along that roadside just to get to the trail itself. We often have out-of-bounds parking that's causing real infrastructure damage to our roadside areas. This is at a place, one of our entrances in North Carolina at Big Creek, where we experienced, again, unprecedented growth in visitation over the last decade. We often will put split rail fences and no parking signs or boulders in place to try to control some of that out-of-bounds parking on non-sustainable surfaces. But as you can see in this picture, people will often ignore that and move it if they can and just extend that impact zone. And then just the congestion that people can experience when they come on a busy day in July or a busy time period on a weekend that can come any time of the year now, year round. This is some of the congestion that people are experiencing in Cades Cove. And so we wanted to talk to the visitors who are coming to the Smokies and get their feedback on both what their ideal visitor experiences would be in places like Cades Cove and Alum Cave Trail and across the park, and then maybe what some of their ideas might be to help us manage some of these congestion challenges. In this photograph you see at Klingman's Dome, another one of those hot spots, we have more than 80 people just waiting in line to use those facilities, and even at a trailhead like Rainbow Falls, you can have some crowding just to be able to use those services before you start your experience. So in 2020, in spite of the pandemic, we wanted to do these workshops in person. We invited our visitors to be able to tell us what they wanted to be able to have, what they wanted their ideal experiences to be like in the park. Again, at some of these iconic locations, but then also maybe some of their favorite spots across the park. And so we heard from more than 600 people that participated in the workshops and or participated online through some of the response opportunities that we gave them. We had incredible feedback, people from 28 different states that were giving us feedback. And we took all of that information and we started to look at some of the ideas that people had for managing some of the congestion and bettering the visitor experience at sites, and put all of those together and really came up with about 31 different actionable items that we considered in 2021 to look at some pilot projects that we might be able to implement that could give us some learning and be able to provide us kind of a path forward for helping create a better visitor experience. And so we did one of those pilot projects at Laurel Falls last year, where for the month of September, we restricted parking to only those who had a parking reservation or they came via a shuttle that was provided from the Gatlinburg community. And so for that time period, we were able to be able to make sure that people had safe access from the trailhead parking to the trailhead itself. Again, before this, people were walking along those busy roadways for up to a mile along those busy mountain roads just to get to the trailhead. We also wanted to make sure that we were improving the visitor experience along the trail and also at the destination itself. So we did a lot of monitoring to make sure we were meeting the safety improvements we were trying for, and also the visitor experience improvements. And so you can kind of see the pre-pilot congestion happening at the parking lot, people driving past along the roadways trying to wait for spots to open up, and then parking along the roadside down past the parking lot. And then during the pilot, where we're able to have managed parking, people pulling into a proper parking space, having safe access to the trailhead, and then at the destination itself. You know, we want people to be able to linger and have some time to enjoy it after they've made the trek there. So we're still assessing some of that, the information that came from it, but we can say that through this management, we eliminated the out-of-bounds parking. We eliminated the crowding and the congestion that people were feeling both along the trail and at the destination. We had an incredible decrease in the amount of the litter left behind, and over 90% of our feedback was positive about the way we managed the site during that pilot period. So again, we're still assessing that data, and it's part of a much larger Laurel Falls Trail Management Plan and environmental assessment that we're embarking on. We're going to be going back out for some more public comment and civic engagement later this spring. And next steps for how we might manage this site, we look forward to in probably 2023. So stay tuned for that. The other pilot project we did was managing vehicle-free access at Cades Cove on Wednesdays. And last year we had a pilot project where instead of everybody trying to get there early in the morning when we used to manage just a up to 10 a.m. closure, we extended the closure for the entire day to hopefully spread people out and give them an opportunity to have a better experience when they got there, and better opportunities to get a parking space, because you would have the whole day instead of everyone trying to come in just a short 2 or 3 hour time period. So again, we're still assessing that data, but overall, people did really enjoy having an opportunity not only to cycle it, but we had 40% of the people that now, because the closure to vehicles was in place for a full day, that walked it. So we were able to be more inclusive of a lot of different uses. Even people in mobility devices now have the opportunity, because it's a full day, to be able to experience it. We had a trial shuttle that wasn't incredibly successful because the price point, I think, was too high, and there was still the challenge in how people would get their bikes to Cades Cove. So we're working on some of those things, and again, looking for improvements, and probably in 2023 doing some things a little bit differently. And now I just want to give you an update on a couple of other improvements again that we're making in visitor experiences, and again with a goal of trying to be inclusive of more of our visitors. We were really excited in 2021 to open up the first accessible trail to a cultural site in the park. We have another accessible trail that goes through a natural area near park headquarters, but this is our first accessible trail that goes to one of our cultural sites. So now in Cades Cove, along a half-mile trail, it's paved, and people of all abilities now can have an immersive experience going through that cultural landscape, historic landscape, right up to one of the oldest cabins in Cades Cove, the oldest cabin in Cades Cove, the John Oliver cabin. Really excited about that. And then Another renovation that happened in 2021 to improve the visitor experience was our completion of the Trails Forever project at Abrams Falls. So a lot of great work went into rehabilitating that 2.6-mile trail, one of our most popular, heavily used trails, so that it will be sustainable for more use by the public. And I just want to take us on a quick recap of some of the amazing work that's happened through the Trails Forever program. This was actually the 6th trail rehabilitation to be completed. They just do amazing work, and again, we target those trails that get the most use. So the first trail was the Forney Ridge Trail out of Klingman's Dome parking lot to Andrews Bald. That work was done in 2008 through 2011. The trail still looks great, and it continues to be able to support use and allow people to have a trail experience there without damaging and widening that trail to where the native plants and the trailside resources are damaged. And the Chimney Tops Trail rehabilitation was done in 2012 and 2014 through the Trails Forever program. Again, one of our most heavily used trails. The Alum Cave Trail leading to Mount LeConte that we've kind of touched on and talked about that popularity. That was completed over a 2-year period and really greatly improved access to that trail. And Rainbow Falls, another trail that leads to Mount LeConte, but also to the falls itself. And Trillium Gap Trail rehabilitation that we completed in 2020, leading to Mount LeConte, but also the very popular Grotto Falls. So incredible work, again, trying to continue to make these really special places accessible and to make them sustainable for future generations. And the efforts also that we've been expending, especially during this pandemic period, to make those connections for that next generation so that they are connected and want to come and hike and explore the park is ongoing. So we're still reaching out to school children, kindergarten through 12th grade, and then also we're still having some our college programming that we're doing and trying to do work through a new website called Smokies at Home for parents who now have become teachers where they never thought they would have before, but amazing resources on that website that everyone can access that allow the children and people of all ages to have a moment to escape and to be able to have a moment for education and also to be entertained. So I encourage you to check out that website. And then, if you're a teacher in a classroom or you're a homeschool leader, check out our Parks as Classroom virtual programming that we're doing. And then just a brief update on, again, the amazing work that's still taking place to protect these incredible forests that we have. We are still combating forest insect pest, but we're winning in many cases. And so the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid program, where we treat some of our old growth forest and again focus in on our conservation areas so that we can protect core areas of hemlock, has been incredibly successful, and that work is ongoing. And we're also still out there trying to prevent future pests from coming into the park through some of our programs where we restrict firewood in all of our campgrounds unless it's been certified heat treated, so that we don't inadvertently bring in unwanted forest pests like the emerald ash borer and some of these other pests that can come in commonly through firewood. So a lot of work's taking place to help protect resources across the park, and this is just one of many programs that I wanted to highlight for you all today. And with that, I just want to end by giving a shout out to all of our incredible partners who support this work that we've talked about today. Our philanthropic partner, Friends of the Smokies, our partner in education and in running our bookstores and providing incredible educational materials, Great Smoky Mountains Association, our partner in providing residential educational experiences, Great Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont, our science partner, Discover Life in America, and our incredible resource of volunteers who give their most precious resource, their time, to give back in this park. We had more than 2,000 volunteers in 2021 who gave more than 100,000 hours of service to help us take care of this place, and we simply could not do that work without them. And some of our very special volunteers may be either watching or they're participating in Wilderness Wildlife Week and giving some of the programs. They amplify the work we do, and we're so grateful for their service. And just want to say a special thank you to all of our volunteers in park and these incredible partners that we have. And with that, I will end. I hope to see you at Wilderness Wildlife Week in person, and I'll be back there and be available to answer questions that you may have about the park and give another update. So thank you.